Instead, I'll just kind of be presenting through my data here and introducing you to the overall kind of context of the Manoa Political Internship Program. Um, let's see. And Kamakana, you're welcome to hop in here if you want to add anything, since you probably know as much as I do here. But today, yeah, I'll be covering my own. I'll take a lot of time to really introduce myself, as well as the institution which I work in, which is the University of Hawaii at Manoa. I'm going to be covering the 50-year history of the Manoa Political Internship Program, and then I'll kind of come in at the very end of that 50-year history to reveal kind of my own ethnographic audit when I came into the program to begin managing it in 2022. I'll note some of the problems I've found and the overhaul I've made, and then all of the steps I've taken to intervene and help the program hopefully secure another 50 years of success. And covering the assessment procedures I put into place, and all with the hope of finally ending with to really truly make the learning of the program and these internships a lot more visible. So as I said, my name is Ruben Enrique Campos, and I also said I'm going to take my time with this introduction here, and that's for the very important a goal of really contextualizing my own place and positionality here at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. One of those kind of things that we learn from really culturally responsive approaches to evaluation, especially within settler colonial contexts, is the fact that we have to, in some ways, really position ourselves as not only administrators, but as assessors in relation to the larger, broader context of the places that we are, or the programs that we're assessing. So I am Chicano from the Southern California. I was born in Southern California, and I arrived to Hawaii in 2009 to finish my PhD in anthropology. I actually, when I moved here to Hawaii, I was the kind of first generation college student. I went to a university at the University of Redlands in Southern California. Fortunately, my sisters they had shown me what community college experience was like, and then what a state college was like. And then I was able to get into university, a small liberal arts college at the University of Redlands. And as really middle class Chicanos, we had a lot of access to educational experiences that maybe my cousins certainly didn't, due to my dad's positionality as well. And so I grew up very much outside of the larger, class-based educational systems that, like I said, my cousins had access to. So by the time I left the University of Redlands, and really tried to start figuring out what higher education could mean, I started to realize I'd missed a lot of the undergraduate experiences that maybe some of the other students that I'd went to school with taken for granted. So I decided that I would spend 3 years after my undergraduate figuring out what what college graduate programs would look like, and that's when I decided to come to the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and came to here 2009 to start my master's and PhD programs. And very quickly did I realize that I had missed a very large portion of history in my high school and undergraduate courses, which really outlined the settler colonial history of Hawaii as an overthrown, illegally annexed territory, and then final state of the United States. And that really kind of startled me into really rethinking what education could mean, what engagement could mean, and what my own access to education could mean. And so kind of as I said, I came here to study anthropology. My specific interest was in, and continues to be, within hip hop, rap music, studying sound, studying the relational contexts of the auditory experience and mobility within cities. And as I came here, I started studying local rappers and indigenous rappers here in Hawaii. And they started, as well as my colleagues and friends in the Department of Ethnic Studies, really started pushing and nudging me to start thinking more about ethnic identity and politics and the relationality of place. And through that experience, I really recognized that maybe studying hip hop here in Hawaii wasn't or shouldn't be the end of my study, and that I should start doing a little more deep reflection. And so I went to Mexico to finish my anthropology research, and again studied hip hop in Mexico City. And throughout all that time, as I was reconfiguring what it meant to be related to a place, I started getting more involved in the kind of decolonial politics of the place of Hawaii, and through my relationship with the hip hop scene here. And when I returned and finished my PhD sometime in 2020, a month or so before the COVID-19 lockdown, I'd really kind of started understanding that this place that I understood now as a settled place, as an illegally annexed place, as a place that was rife with kind of questions of sovereignty, would end up becoming my home. And again, having come into my own Chicano identity, I started rethinking what the politics of that decision meant and how I might make a name and place for myself through a relationship to the University of Hawaii. And so in 2022, I got my full-time administrative position here at the University of Hawaii, and in the department, or in the College of Social Sciences, in the program for civic and community engagement. And while I still maintain and focus on some of my creative audiovisual ethnic studies experiences with Pauhana Sessions, a small group of scholars that engage with the politics of place through sound and video and visual media creation, I also got very involved in service learning as part of the program for civic and community engagement under Dr. Ula Hassiger, and started really taking part in the Aloha Aina movements here to help steward traditional indigenous ways of understanding place, relation to place, foodways, sustainability, power, Pilina, all these different ways. So you'll see me, of course, with a big mic in that picture, and then also you'll see me right in the lo'i there, clearing out invasive species and really enjoying my time. And then at the same time, I also inherited the position of managing the Mānoa Political Internship Program. And of course, that will be the primary focus that I have today, is on that program and my interventions in that. And while for the most part, I won't be focusing on the decolonial politics of that, and will be more focusing on just the basic questions of equity and access of that field, and the larger program that of who it's providing internships for, those other questions still maintain my focus and are ultimate goals that I will hope to articulate with as my growth in the program continues. So, what is, or where is the University of Hawaii? It is I'm currently in the Ili'aina of Pilipili, a small little land division within the Ahupua'a of Waikiki, or is it Manoa? Yeah, and it's a University of Hawaii is an indigenous serving land, sea, and space grant institution. We also recently were designated as a civically engaged campus by the Carnegie elective classification system. I proudly display that one there because myself, my supervisor, Ulla Hassiger, and a team of others worked very hard to kind of start collecting the data that displays our connection to community and as a university and the kind of work, the engaged work that we're doing. And so the institutional context which we work in, the kind of institutional learning objectives, are to know, do, and value. And so we seek to have the breadth and depth of knowledge with an emphasis on Hawaii, Asia, and the Pacific. We are making sure that our students have the intellectual and practical skills, critical thinking, research, and communication. And we also have a high focus on value, which are the personal and social responsibility, integrity, civic participation, and respect for Hawaiian culture. And while certainly the goals there are a primary kind of reason why this university is, or at least my focus in ethnic studies is focused on oceanic ethnic studies and exploring some of those questions from an oceanic lens, less focused on the continent. My work with the Mānoa Political Internship, of course, connects me to the U.S. governmental system. We also have some soon probably to change. Kamakani will have to tell me if I know these were supposed to be through 2015 to 2025, what our new strategic initiatives are for the university. But one of the primary institutional kind of strategic initiatives we have are becoming a Native Hawaiian place of learning, supporting student success, supporting research excellence, and sustainability. Again, these are some of the primary strategies and goals that the university has that I hope over time the university, or that the Mānoa Political Internship Program, can work towards and build towards, and the assessment that I have been conducting will foster and lead towards these kinds of objectives here. Let's see. So now let's talk about the Mānoa Political Internship Program as a program itself. And sorry for this text-heavy page, but the Mānoa Political Internship is now in its 5th decade. It represents a partnership between the University of Hawaii at Manoa and several political offices throughout the state of Hawaii and Washington, D.C. Through collaboration, this partnership is dedicated to creating a highly impactful educational learning experience for students. MPIN serves the entire university, but is managed by the College of Social Sciences academic success in the social sciences, or advising civic and community engagement in the social sciences. We all like to fight over the abbreviations here and the different ways in which we are trying to brand our student support hub in the College of Social Sciences. But as I noted, this program is set to serve all students at the University of Hawaii, which is an important factor because even though my role is in the College of Social Sciences, it is my ultimate intention to make sure that this program is accessible to all students across the university, and that we're fostering that kind of growth towards being competitive applicants. So basically, the Mānoa Political Internship Program sends 4 students to Washington, D.C. every semester, 2 to our senator's offices, and then 2 to our House of Reps offices. We cover 12 credits of in-state tuition, shared dorm housing just a few blocks away from the Capitol, a round-trip flight to D.C., and a small living stipend for the development of a professional wardrobe. The interns work 40 hours per week in those offices and engage in a pretty intensive seminar course and academic schedule as well within the political science department, and ongoing 3 credits in their course program major, right? And the fact that they're working 40 hours a week and then also engaging in these actually academic exercises seems to be pretty unique, as most universities that send interns kind of reduce the level of hours or completely remove some of the academic requirements on students. This will be relevant as we move forward. We also have a local program that sends students to our district offices of the congressional district offices. the governor, lieutenant governor's office, the public defender and prosecuting attorney, and several legislative offices. Those are for 20 hours a week with only 6 credits of protein, or sorry, 6 credits of program credits, and then 6 more credits from whatever major the students are involved in. These are less the focus of today's work here, because really, as the DC program is our kind of flagship or signature program, most of my assessment works have been dedicated to building and revitalizing that. So that is the larger program, and I do want to point out that now this program is in its 5th decade. The person in charge of the curriculum has been the same, the kind of creator of this program and the one that's currently in charge of the curriculum has been the same professor that has been in charge of the program and has fought for the program for the past 50 years. And I certainly want to honor his role in maintaining this program. But of course, as the young upstart program manager, I hope that I can plan for the next 50 years and move beyond some of the kind of legacy organizing, or the curriculum legacy, works that have come before me. So all of this comes out of, and of course towards my goal, is when I came here in 2022, it was told to me that 25% of my job should be focused on the Mānoa Political Internship Program, and then 75% on other civic, community, and service learning programs. And it became very obvious very early that especially post-COVID, that the Mānoa Political Internship Program needed a major overhaul. There were multiple issues, everywhere from the just basic relationships with offices that had kind of started to fall apart, with the outreach system to students and advisors, and how the program was kind of advertising itself. There were issues with the curriculum as well. And I engaged in these early months just trying to essentially follow as a good assistant, to just kind of work with the administrative features that I'd been given, and just to carry on the program by throwing some emails around and making sure everything kind of ran smoothly. But it was very obvious that that wasn't going to work, and that my role as an administrator needed to elevate in some way. So the interventions that I began and have begun and continue to make have been really inspired by that early education that I introduced you all with, that focused on kind of ethnic studies scholarship, with my own experiences as a first-generation student that didn't understand or didn't know what an internship really was about. And so as I began, and I mentioned this ethnographic audit because the meetings that I set up very early with the program curriculum design or professor that was running the program, the interviews and conversations that I had with each of the political offices, and the reflection moments that I had with all of the students that we were placing, kept revealing a lot of unifying themes that were again revealing that the program needed a major overhaul. And it also came at a time before I really understand the power of assessment and my role as a kind of agent in change in the ways that I could intervene without overstepping my necessary role, because curriculum is not mine to change in this program. But again, that first phase of just kind of fumbling around, trying to make the program continue on, again, revealed that I needed to do a lot more just to keep the program on. And as you can kind of see of these different phases, I will admit that every time I've fixed a problem or thought I fixed a problem, in one corner, another corner popped up as being filled with dust and cobwebs as well. So again, it's a little bit of a whack-a-mole situation trying to maintain this kind of legacy program 50 years in the making. So in that first phase, it was really just using my ethnographic skills, doing my own little kind of study and working with focus groups to really get a lay of the land and building relationships to strengthen those relationships, not with just the curriculum, the director, but the offices themselves, and then beginning to build a relationship with the applicants and students. And so then very quickly I noticed that these problems in outreach needed to be expanded. If the program was truly to serve the entire university, I would have to do a better job of reaching out to students across the university. I would have to streamline the entire application process and the placement process. And those were very difficult and kind of time-consuming processes, but fortunately, I was able to begin to communicate outside of the universities, or sorry, the College of Social Sciences, and to connect more and encourage students in the language programs to start applying to us. And of course, all that took communicating with students that an internship was far more important, or a internship in politics and governance, or in a political office was far more, was about more than just politics and governance, and it was about a total high impact practice and educational experience. I also streamlined the application process to shift what the previous application process had been, which was very much built around kind of gatekeeping and only finding the cream of the crop, and feeding into what some of the offices were actually asking for, which was access to having B+ students applying, to having students that didn't have access before. And I did forget to mention that earlier back here, that the stipend and the work that the kind of creator of this program had built about supporting students and placing students was very much his attempt to make this opportunity available to the working class, non-politically engaged students and student families that Hawaii, kind of mostly in the State University of Hawaii, catered to, right? So in his work, he was very much trying to bridge that economic and socioeconomic barrier that was defining the Mānoa Political Internship Program. And unfortunately, as the program has shifted, we've realized, or I've realized, that the kind of intersectional qualities of class are also intersecting with factors of race and gender and sexuality and all of these kind of identity factors that were limiting certain students' access and making it very difficult for them to be a part of the program. And so the application process, which I shifted, and I'll kind of go through these a little more in the slides that are following, really tried to shift away from some of that gatekeeping practice of we only want to get that highest GPA student into these offices, more towards really embracing my role as the program manager and as the person in charge of the application process. Shifting my role as one that, again, was keeping students out, and one that was more built around educating and giving all of the students access to a deeper understanding of what they were applying to, why they were applying to, and how they could make themselves competitive regardless of their background, right? And so that application process was the changes to it, the time that I spent engaging with students was really quite successful. We were able to get our application rate up 30%, and again, from a much broader range of students. And while that phase continues and I continue to push towards a broader outreach program, the streamlining process, I also realized that I needed to take a more direct action in looking at how the program built beyond the curriculum. That if we were to invite more than just political science students into this program, we also needed to consider what different objectives, learning objectives they might receive from this program. So in a more recent phase, I've defined program learning objectives outside of the curriculum and developed an entry and exit surveys to really start assessing the impact we're having on students. And most recently, as I've put these into practice and continued to have a good ongoing strong relationship with the offices, where I'll conclude today is that I've been able to convince the DC offices to open up a more program-oriented midterm assessment interview with all DC interns to help them course correct towards the program learning objectives and to explore other opportunities within the office setting scenario outside of their class requirements. And so in the next sections, I'm going to kind of go over very quickly the major ways that I've changed the application process, all in response to the feedback and focus groups that I had with students that were continually noting that the application process was quite arcane, that it was not just this difficult, star system access, but what it really meant to turn in a transcript. What does it mean to return in a political issue statement? And so I began working with students more directly, built an entire orientation program and a worksheet to guide students through that process and to begin having them understand how each of the elements of the application process and the application materials were meant to be a synchronized opportunity for them to advocate for their academic, professional qualities that could convince these offices that regardless if they were kind of lower in one category, say their GPA, or if they were missing work experience, or if maybe they had less of a refined sense of the political sphere, that they could still balance those factors and really advocate and speak for themselves to develop themselves as a professional and somebody that was committed and passionate to the internship experience and to the high impact practice of an educational fieldwork experience. And that regardless of any kind of barriers they might have faced previously, that they would be able to still provide good support for the office's needs, and that they could also really excel in their own major programs through this experience. And so those coaching sessions had, as we'll see later in the assessment, have had a very good impact on the application process. I'll admit that I'm just, always quite anxious every semester that we won't have the same numbers and we won't have the same impact because, as I said, as I seem to refine one area, it always seems like another area presents itself as being a problem that needs to be equally attended to, and there's only one of me. But really one of the major places where I made massive changes was the interview process, and to somewhat resistance from the previous, not the previous, the curriculum designer and program director who had been at this for 50 years. But I did take a book from the ongoing HR policies to make sure that all interviews ask the same questions to each applicant so that we can get a baseline measurement. The previous situation was a little bit of a interrogative session where the interviews were built around testing the knowledge of students and really debating them into a corner to reveal whether they had a deep sense of the political theories that were contemporary or any of the political issues that were contemporary. Except for that didn't really work for our students that were coming out of psychology. That didn't really work for our students that were absolutely engaged with economics, but hadn't really started making those connections to what that would mean in the actual political or policy of our Congress. And so it was quite limiting. It also, in many ways, limited some of our indigenous students who were quite engaged with decolonial politics from fully engaging or fully admitting to their own political leniencies, because that legacy model was very much built around a kind of US based settler colonial logic, and in many ways was quite, how to put this delicately, was really quite combative and antagonistic to indigenous politics here and indigenous futures, and was still, though it was kind of liberal in nature, as the state of Hawaii is, was in some ways kind of difficult for students. That old model for interviewing too, where the kind of lead of those interviews would purposefully kind of play the devil's advocate, ended up making it quite uncomfortable for certain students to fully engage in the intellectual process. So we changed those to asking 4 questions that were built around giving students an opportunity to kind of elevate or explain or narrate their transcript and resumes, and how those hang together to speak to the academic and professional passions of the student. And it was built around also training towards giving students an opportunity to make those letters of recommendation a more dialogic process, where students were asked to kind of prepare their letter writers, so that they too could speak to the benefits and qualities of those students. Of course, that political issue statement is revealed in the interviews to be a starting place that demonstrates the ability of those students to effectively communicate in a concise way. And so all that coaching and those interview questions are meant to kind of give the student an opportunity to speak to those qualities about themselves. And instead of using those interviews as a way to limit students, I've now in place so that those interviews are part of a video cover letter that go in with the dossier to the offices, so to give the offices, and we coach the students through that process as a kind of rehearsal interview. So the students come prepared fully with those questions. We record that interview and send that off to them. But after we cut, that is when I give feedback on their interview performance and their best practices, and sometimes give the students an extra opportunity to kind of refine their voice. And then the academic lead of the program gives the students constructive feedback on how they might elevate their argument and political issue statement. And so the pressure is relieved from the student having to kind of fight for their interview, and instead gives them an opportunity to put their best foot forward, and gives the offices, as they have been very happy with, an opportunity to see those students narrate their own basic qualities, so that when they get into interviews with the students for the final placement, they're able to ask those questions, those kind of more surprise questions that of transferable skills, of the students' ability to overcome certain issues, which of course we also, in those rehearsal interviews, I always warn students to make sure they are doing their homework on the offices themselves, and to prepare certain kinds of answers that are commonly asked in interview questions. So, as noted, the benefits of those changes to the application process has increased the breadth of folks that were getting to apply, but that wasn't enough for me. It was, as I kind of started a couple slides back, that assessment can kind of function as my own kind of agentive practice, an educational practice. I decided to create program learning objectives based on the kind of Bloom's verbs, a way that we could shift the program to be not just about what students were learning in the required political science courses, and shift to more towards total career development and more holistic kind of workforce development. So that the transferable skills the students from the very start of the program understood were a primary goal of the program. And so we have students identifying key roles and responsibilities within a productive office or work setting. We have them summarizing the ethical guidelines and professional conduct expected in an office or work setting. We have them applying effective communication strategies in a professional and office environment. We have them evaluating the effectiveness of different strategies for achieving collaborative goals, correlating real-world experiences and case studies with academic learning and the critical theories of their major program, and self-assessing their personal strength and areas for growth as a future professional. And then developing, hopefully, this is our kind of, I guess, goal at some point, developing a professional portfolio showcasing the skills and experiences gained during these internships. And I want to be clear that at this point, these learning objectives have really just been revealed and are not aligned with any specific learning activities that the program is providing, and instead have been just kind of added as a wish list that I've communicated with the political offices and gained their kind of thumbs up that these are appropriate learning objectives, and that yes, indeed, all of the kind of work that the interns are doing in Washington, D.C. support these learning objectives. And while I do not yet have, again, any learning activities or assessment specifically or kind of value rubrics associated to test students, that is the ultimate goal. At the same time, it's, as I mentioned quite a ways back, our students in Washington, D.C. are already very much overtaxed by the curricular load, which, as I will say later in our specific assessments, has been one of the primary suggestions for growth in the program, which is a shifting away from some of the specific political science curriculum and a more kind of relative or curriculum based around the kind of actual needs of the program and the flexibility of students. And so the program learning objectives, as I stated, once I had built those, I decided I needed to have entry and exit surveys built around those with those kind of aligned questions that we're going to give with the entrance, kind of a baseline guide of how students felt about how familiar, how confident they were in any of those kinds of qualities. And then an exit survey. And while I have only been able to run this entry survey now twice and completed this exit survey once, the data is, at least at this very nascent level, beginning to show that students are achieving their kind of threshold achievement, shifting from kind of, for instance, how familiar are you with the typical roles and responsibilities found in a professional office environment? Our baseline students, only 27% had mentioned or noted that they were at a kind of high level of familiarity. After the program, 67% had kind of reached that threshold of very or extremely familiar. The competence that students are gaining from their experiences in the internship program and the kind of roles that they might encompass in any office or work setting also have increased from, kind of 67% level of confidence to 100% level of confidence, a high threshold confidence that they are going to be able to encounter these in an office work setting. I will admit here that I am not a statistician. So as this conference has been very built around AI, The statistics that we have here have absolutely been helped along by the Gemini's work to one, explain basic statistics to me, and to reveal a fair expression of the success of this program that isn't really overdoing it, right? That if we kind of measure around these threshold achievements, that we can show the growth. But of course, as we get more refined and as we have secondary exit surveys, right? We've only had 15 entry surveys committed so far and something like 6 entry or exit surveys committed so far, that this data over time will start to reveal different trends. But at least at this level, I've been very happy with the results that we're seeing. And of course, those are results that we absolutely expected to see, as we know that internships are a high impact practice and that students are going to achieve great things as they work in this. And I don't want to go over all of these too much very quickly, but we do see, I might end up anyway since we have the time, the knowledgeable ethical guidelines from 73% understanding to 100% understanding when students are coming out of this, of how they can work in a confidential or respectful office scenario. And all of these questions are absolutely reinforced or supported by my ongoing ethnographic understanding of students' experiences. As we've started this internship, or sorry, these survey projects, I have of course continued my first love, which is kind of interviewing and focus groups and understanding the kind of deeper anecdotal experiences of each student and coding through those. As you can see here, we've also included open-ended questions, which I've realized the kind of we'll get to some quotes there. I've realized the deficit of open-ended questions in a survey like this. And while I recognize the power of the statistical evidence we're seeing here, I still want to spend much more time revealing the ethnographic or more kind of feeling-based aspects of the internship program. However, my primary goal in all of the kind of focus groups and more talk story sessions that I've had with students after internships have actually been built around reinforcing my outreach practice by making sure that all of the reflection materials of one cohort are available for the next cohort to view, so that students understand what they're getting into from the student perspective, rather than having that kind of top-down explanation of what students should expect. So those kind of YouTube videos that we're making and archiving are really built around that feature, rather than kind of more focused ethnographic research for the purpose of assessment. But another kind of major success has been students' growth in their confidence in writing. Our political offices have noted the kind of deficit of writing from academic students who come in and being very jargon heavy and verbose heavy. The students are now far more confident in their ability to express their ideas clearly and succinctly, which is something I myself suffer from, and the kind of bullet point communication that the offices want is something I absolutely fail at, but my partners in the political offices are very forgiving of that. That I want to write an essay about students' experiences, and they just want to know, show me some quick numbers and give me a good clean explanation of what's going on. But our students are getting better at that, of course. The students are also getting better at building consensus and working through communication skills, right? One of the most interesting features here that I don't know how to process yet or to really think about is that we're actually seeing a decline in students applying the real world, their major programs to the real world political events. I think this is a statistic that I'm very interested in exploring more of. It I might be a kind of error in the questioning that I should say, you know, in the last 3 months, how much have you discussed? You know, and so we have a baseline comparison of 3 months before the internship and the 3 months during the internship. But it does seem that students are applying their major a lot less while they are in the political offices. That is also coming from political science students. So perhaps that is a result of the fact that the academic exercise that we're seeing in the curriculum, it can't be entirely applicable to the real world in office experiences of students, and that the students don't have time to focus on high-minded political theory when they're actually doing the work of politics. But of course, we do have anecdotal or interview evidence, open-ended kinds of questions that the meaningful impact of the internship is the internship is having a meaningful impact on how students are thinking about their educational experience and their major and program systems. But again, I do hope that the decline in that is related to a positive kind of internal growth of the students, but I can't make that claim just yet. Students are focusing on skills. They're certainly focusing on their resume, and are getting far more confident in what's on their resume. And as I noted far before, the idea of a professional portfolio being kind of the 7th learning objective is a pipe dream of mine, maybe, so that we shift away from the students just again, I'm overstepping a little bit into the curriculum here. The students might be no longer just writing a political essay or research paper for the benefit of the professor, but instead developing something that they can carry with them outside of the internship. And we can see that, of course, because I don't have any learning objectives or requirements, we have kind of a flat line on students' understanding of what a professional portfolio is. But with all that said, I did want to share some of the kind of specific quotes that are aligned with some of the features that we have with our, I'll read these out for you. A productive work or office setting is one where each person is able to work with others in various ways. Each job title has crucial function toward the overall end goal, and no matter the rank, many people rely on different teams, departments, and special expertise to work toward that end goal for their work. Another student said, being present and note-taking during interviews and witnesses for trials, they had to remain composed even when the questioning would be overwhelming or emotional for the person. And relating to those kinds of ethical and communicational practices of office settings, this seemed quite relevant. And here's one where students actually did make a connection to their academic major program. This internship connected my coursework to real-world government operations. My Pacific Studies minor helped me understand the cultural and community context of Hawaii's policy issues, reinforcing the importance of culturally informed, community-centered public service. I love that one so much. Here's some more advice for students. From one student to a next, don't hesitate to ask for opportunities and information that align with what you're wanting to learn. Asking thoughtful questions, requesting feedback, and speaking up when you're ready to take on more responsibility can really help you get the most out of the experience. The internship isn't just for your resume or school credit. It's such a loaded comment that I'd love to explore more, but again, that's the benefit, or maybe the affordances of an open-ended question and a very quick survey should hopefully leave us wanting to understand more from an ethnographic perspective. Finally, I have added some kind of administrative questions on the students' satisfaction with the program staff, with the instructors and curricular support, with the internship supervisors and in-office support. And of course, I focus most on, the administrative staff here, that it seems I have more work to do to give students more information up front and during the application process to inform students of how everything is going to play out. The offices, of course, our internship supervisors at the office, I just met with them. They mentioned to me, they said, it doesn't matter how much kind of preparation you do for these students, a big part of them in this internship is them figuring it out in place, and that it isn't necessary for you as the kind of program coordinator to prepare and do all of the training that the students need. Of course, maybe you can give them a tutorial on how to write a basic email or memo, or give them access to some of the basic features of civics, but ultimately the learning has to happen here and in place. It does also seem that we could continue to have a better relationship with how the syllabus is defined, and the stress that curriculum is putting on our students seems to be something that we explore. So as I conclude the next steps, the next phase of the Mānoa Political Internship Program is, first, as it just happened last week as I was in DC meeting with our offices, they have agreed to allow the program to run a mid-semester reflection. That we used to meet, the program, myself and the offices used to meet to focus on how we could refine the application process, how we could refine the placement process, how we could refine all of the issues that the program was facing. They said, that is working just fine now. We love the new system you have put in place to get us more applicants and in a more rapid time. So now they're giving me the permission to focus more on these kinds of student assessment questions, and to develop perhaps some of these signature assignments that are going to help us as the Mānoa Political Internship prepare our students for what might be coming in the next 50 years. So with that said, thank you for your time today. If you have any questions or comments, please email me at mpin@hawaii.edu, mpin@hawaii.edu, or reach out to me personally at recampos@hawaii.edu, recampos@hawaii.edu. Thank you for your time.